Keep the faith. Stay professional, whether you're Navy or Marine. Do your job and do it in memory of our fallen brothers.
The announcement came only hours after a ceasefire finally stands around Beirut, halting Lebanon's civil war.
Died in their beds. Some escaped, but not building without injury.
There's a lot of heroes out there tonight, saving their friends, going in dangerous places to pull somebody out.
There are no words for our outrage, and I think the outrage of all Americans at the despicable...
Tonight, we honor the servicemen who died in Beirut.
So we call it the Beirut Memorial, but we also honor the ones that were killed recently.
It did make a difference. It made a difference, and our nation is better off for it.
In the loss of these patriots who died in these distant lands, we feel the pain of their sacrifice, which we shall never forget.
When I woke up, I was buried, not knowing at the time that it was the entire building. But I was buried, laying there, trying to figure out what happened.
My fellow Americans, some 2 months ago, we were shocked by the brutal massacre of 269 men, women, and children, more than 60 other Americans, in the shooting down of a Korean airliner. Now, in these past several days, violence has erupted again in Lebanon and Grenada. In Lebanon, we have some 1,600 Marines, part of a multinational force that's trying to help the people of Lebanon restore order and stability to that troubled land.
The peacekeeping mission sort of went south as time went on, as the summer heated up. There was a lot more what we call stray rounds at our position. They were aimed rounds, but they just weren't hitting anybody yet. And then once the first couple of peacekeepers got killed, then we realized that we're in a fight.
A truck, looking like a lot of other vehicles in the city, approached the airport on a busy main road. There was nothing in its appearance to suggest it was any different than the trucks or cars that were normally seen on and around the airport. But this one was different.
It was supposed to be holiday routine, our first Sunday off in a couple of months. And we were gonna, do the Sunday thing, a barbecue and, field games and, maybe drink a couple of beers. And then at 6:32 a.m., it happened.
The truck carried some 2,000 pounds of explosives, but there was no way our Marine Guards could know this. Their first warning that something was wrong came when the truck crashed through a series of barriers, including a chain-link fence and barbed wire entanglements. The guards opened fire, but it was too late. The truck smashed through the doors of the headquarters building in which our Marines were sleeping and instantly exploded.
And all of a sudden, just huge explosion just knocked me off my feet, collapsed some of the sandbags on the bunker around me, and I kept looking at this where the BLT used to be through the binoculars, and it's just a pile of rubble, and then there's a slowly rising mushroom cloud that used to be where the BLT building was.
Most of us got blown off our racks. It was that loud. And we immediately went to condition red. We thought we had incoming. We didn't know the extent yet.
We were coming back from visiting my relatives in Asheville, North Carolina, when we heard the news. And it struck me as something that must have been exaggerated. There's no way that could have happened.
October 23rd was a Sunday morning, and as everybody got to church, we started hearing rumors running around about a major bombing in Beirut, Lebanon.
Be advised, there's been an explosion in the vicinity of the BLT, and I said, I can't see the building anymore. They said, say again your last, and I said, there's been an explosion, I can't see the building. He said, are you sure? I said, sir, you need to come up and see this. talking with those guys later, the corpsman, he said the entire BAS was destroyed. The building was a steel reinforced concrete building with 2-inch rebar, and it was collapsed, just collapsed into a pile of rubble. There were still Marines and sailors inside the building, and then everybody that was trying to dig these guys out were starting to get shot at by snipers out in the town. Just the names started flooding in, and you're just wondering what the heck is going on here.
I couldn't feel my left arm. So I was using my right arm, my right hand, to find my right arm, thinking that it was off. And I grabbed the hand, didn't feel it. I didn't have any feeling in it. I think that's when my shoulder was broke. But I had a ring on my finger that I knew was mine, and I grabbed it and held on to it, thinking that if they was gonna get me out, I was going to take my arm with me and hopefully they can sew it back on. But I laid there for a while thinking that eventually they'll get me. And that's what happened. I started hearing somebody call down, "Bud, you okay? You okay?" And I yelled up, "Get me out of here." And I couldn't move, I couldn't get up. So I laid there for a while and trying to make myself laugh, just trying to stay calm. And they started moving these big boulders, and I started feeling the sand roll down on my neck, and then I started feeling a little bit of cool air. And that's when I knew they was getting close to getting me out. They pulled me out, rushed me into a building, laid me down. I couldn't see anything. I sustained 2nd and 3rd degree burns, broken shoulder, collapsed lung. My left cheek was ripped open. Burns on my legs, shoulders, arms, chest. All my pigmentation on my face was burnt off. And I had some shrapnel wounds.
Yeah, it was an ever indelible moment that's seared into my brain, and it's hard to unsee. I'll never forget it.
We grieve along with the families of these brave, proud Americans who have given their lives for their country and for the preservation of peace. I have just met with the families of many of those who were killed. I think all Americans would cradle them in our arms if we could. We share their sorrow. I want all of you who lost loved ones and friends to know that the thoughts and prayers of this nation are with you.
Well, the whole community was basically shocked and really silent about it. The news media descended on us.
It is now 38 after. They came in peace.
A mad terrorist in his car bomb wiping out Camp Lejeune's 24th Amphibious Unit.
That a terrorist car bomb in Beirut destroyed the U.S. Marine barracks, killing 241 American servicemen.
In October 1983, I was Public Works Director for the city of Jacksonville. October 23rd was a Sunday morning, and as everybody got to church, we started hearing rumors running around about a major bombing in Beirut, Lebanon. And once we got the facts down, we discovered that the barracks headquarters had been destroyed by a truck bomb.
And it struck me as something that must have been exaggerated. There's no way that could have happened. But as we got into town, we realized it did happen. And I told my wife, I said, something's got to be done.
Well, I've been a resident of Jacksonville all my life, but 40 years ago when this very terrible tragedy occurred in 1983, I was actually a police officer with the City of Jacksonville Police Department. I remember at that time, it was just it was almost unreal when the news came out about what actually happened over in Beirut. It was very devastating, and we saw a lot of people. A lot of the people that were killed over there had family back here in Jacksonville, and
like people couldn't believe what had happened. And by that afternoon, there were newspaper reporters and relatives and family members and everybody all over this place. You couldn't get a motel room within 40 miles of this place simply because of all the people that were coming here to find out what happened or what happened to a relative of theirs. And it got to the point where actually we had to restrict the base access because we had people coming up to the doors of the Marines and knocking on the doors asking for information. So we had to get that under control. It was almost pandemonium for about 48 hours.
And on October 23rd, 1983, I was the news director for WJNC AM, WRCM FM, right across the street from this memorial. I got a call from the overnight operator that something had happened and that AP was on the phone and wanted some feeds and NBC wanted some information. And so I went into the station and eventually made my way out to Camp Lejeune to the public affairs office there, where there were already some folks that had called in. It was overwhelming.
Well, the whole community was basically shocked and really silent about it. The news media descended on us, and we were doing everything we could, and the Marine Corps was too, to protect the families of the men who had been killed. And so we were doing things just to, I don't know, we weren't trying to distract the media, but we wanted them out of here so the families could grieve in private and we could go ahead, with our lives.
So I was in Goldsboro when the bombing occurred in '83, but would come home often, and Mom would tell me, what she was doing. She was the chairperson of the beautification committee at the time, so she was always telling me things about the city, things she wanted to do around the city. She loved Jacksonville.
But the one thing I could say is that it was a defining moment in the character of the city of Jacksonville and the Jacksonville-Picasso community. It was a coming together of the community like none I'd ever seen before. We had a split community prior to that. You had the military, then you had the civilian. But as a result of what happened over there, it kind of brought us all together.
Well, see, when the bombing occurred, we started seeing in church pews somebody was missing. And these guys were soccer coaches, softball coaches, teachers' assistants, volunteers in the school system, volunteers in all the sports programs. They were truly part of our community.
She recognized the connection between Lejeune and the city of Jacksonville. Like I said, she'd grown up around military all her life. She tuned in on that connection. And when the bombing occurred, she knew right away that the beautification committee and the city of Jacksonville needed to do something to recognize the loss and the sacrifice.
When the bombing of the headquarters building occurred in Lebanon, the city was distraught because so many of the Marines lived here in our community. And we decided that we would ask the Department of Transportation if we could plant a memorial tree down Lejeune Boulevard for each Marine that was killed in Lebanon. And they gave us permission, and the citizens of the community sent the money in right away to pay for the trees.
Our Beautification and Appearance Commission, Doris Downs was our chairman. We met and decided to ask the Department of Transportation if we could have permission to plant a memorial tree along the median of Lejeune Boulevard in commemoration of all the lives that were lost. And fortunately, we had a member of the board, the Transportation Board from Jacksonville, and he kind of pushed through permission so that we could plant the trees. Started fundraising pretty quickly. Some students from Northwoods Park Middle School, actually, they took it on as a project. They wrote letters to all the family members and they started fundraising. One young lady, she knew she was going to get a Cabbage Patch doll for Christmas that year. So she auctioned it off so that she could raise funds. So she got about $1,500 for that. But we were able to plant the trees, and we had a dedication for the trees in March 1984.
The effort to have the trees done just went rapidly. And the idea about having this memorial built was really off the ground and had a great original surge. But it started to drag. And that's when Abe Rosen came aboard to help with the fundraising to finish the project, to get it done and get it built. And he was a grand master at pulling people together and rallying behind it. What helped also was that Bob Hope had sent a check in, and that check also helped. There was for yellow ribbons and to do the efforts that were there, and that was really impressive that had. And the publicity for that allowed us to get even more donations coming in.
She said, would you be open to the idea of designating a small part of that corner lot across the road from the Veterans Cemetery where the city could do this? And was told, let us get the right people together, Ms. Downs, we'll discuss it, we'll get back with you. She was hoping to get just a piece of the corner where they could put up a plaque and maybe have a few cars could park, and they would put up some lighting so it would be lit at night.
Then we felt like that we should put a marker saying what those trees were for future generations to see. And we talked to the commanding general of Camp Lejeune about the idea, and he was so enthused that he started working right away to make a point of land along Lejeune Boulevard available for a marker. And he felt like this site would be the very best one because it's close in town and we could have a small parking area.
And they came back to her and said, Ms. Downs, we're going to give you the entire piece of property. And she thought, what do you mean by the entire piece of property? We're going to designate 4.5 acres for this. And she told me that she didn't expect, she was hoping for maybe 1/4 of an acre over there on the corner. And she just completely took her by surprise. She went home and said to my father, she said, Lawrence, they're giving me 4.5 acres. I can't put a plaque up on 4 acres of land. What are we gonna, she said, what am I gonna do with all this land? And he said, you're gonna have to start thinking a whole lot bigger.
We decided that we wanted to do a large memorial. Didn't know what it was going to look like or anything of that nature, but we didn't want some little small marker. So we got to asking questions and found out that we was going to need about $250,000. I said, well, we should be able to do that in 3 months. So we set a deadline of April 15th to have the money, because the base said that we had to have the monies in the bank before they would deed over the property. We had the $270,000 in the bank, April 15.
Gathered to break the ground with local and base officials near the front entrance of Camp Johnson. Abe Rosen, a local businessman, was tasked by the Onslow County Commission to head the project.
Just through the dedication and caring of so many of the members of the community, we finally reached our goal. It's been an awful lot of hard work by an awful lot of people.
The commission hopes to dedicate the area officially October 23rd. From the Beirut Memorial site, I'm Corporal Tracy Cruz.
We got a parachute donated from the base, and we covered the entire memorial with it. And when we pulled the parachute down, you heard a lot of oohs, and, you know, there was a lot of tears. It was very emotional for all of us. Of course, the Commandant was there. The Governor of North Carolina, Governor Martin, he was there. It was just solemn, but yet we tried to make it a little bit of a ceremony that was not down, you know, lift everybody up. And we had some great speeches. It was tremendous.
She was here at the very first dedication. She was here. She was the mistress of ceremony. I was sitting where most of the bleachers are when the ceremony occurs, and I was amazed at what she did that day. You know, I watched and listened to her and thought, I could not do what she's doing right now. Not with thousands of people in front of you and probably half the nation looking at you on TV right now.
The last 10 trees planted on that Arbor Day were planted by the members of the families. Most of you are with us today. Inspired by this living memorial and by the dedication of this tract of land by the Marine Corps, fundraising began in earnest to build this memorial park. The concept for the memorial came from 2 graduate students in the North Carolina State University School of Design, Miss Wendy Moses and Mr. Todd Neal. A memorial to hold the names of the men lost in Lebanon and Grenada. A broken wall symbolizing a torn building, a wall with their message, and becoming a part of our history, never to be forgotten. Funding for this memorial came from hundreds of people. The number of people who have worked to build this memorial cannot be counted. In your hearts, you must feel our joy, and you must feel our pride in this accomplishment. Thank you.
No military service could have asked for more than what our Marines and their families have received from the city of Jacksonville. You joined us in our sorrow. You gave us your support. You gave us your compassion. And you gave us your love.
May this monument stand and remind us all of those splendid young Americans who have given so much for their country.
Eternal Father, grant, we pray, to all Marines, both night and day, the courage, honor, strength, and skill their land to serve, thy law fulfill. Be thou the shield forevermore from every peril to the core. God bless you, each of you, and God bless America, the land of the free, because it remains the home of the brave.
After this memorial was dedicated, we realized we were one community instead of 2. Abby Godwin had some, I don't know, she grew up here for a short while in her life. So when we invited her, she said she'd love to come down and talk to us. So we met with her, and then we came out here, and I think she's set right here. But she said, could you just leave me out here for a while? And I said, yeah. So I thought we was probably getting pretty close to her, you know. So after she spent about an hour just sitting here looking at the wall, she finally told her, she said, well, I'm ready to go back to the thing. She said, I want to do it. I said, no, we only got 60 grand and we don't have any more money. So we could probably raise some more. You know, I was hoping she'd say no. She said, no, that'll be fine. Everything here except for the granite itself come from North Carolina. The memorial is very, very special to everybody here because of the closeness. Fact is, I was probably master of ceremonies 20 years or so. And every time I would get up in front to say, welcome, you know, I'd look at, I got to the point where I couldn't look at the family. But, because every time I did, it bring back all those memories of all those young kids. And it was quite an emotional time.
We began having the remembrance services here in the Beirut Memorial to remember the sacrifice our service people made to defend our freedoms. But at that time, we also made a promise, a solemn promise that we would never forget the sacrifice that they made to ensure the freedom that we enjoy today.
Colonel Neller then, General Neller, he assigned me to say, hey, go support the Beirut Memorial Ceremony. And I went down there and I gathered up the Marines and the color guard and the fire and detail and all that. And we showed up to the gardens here, and I was waiting for somebody to tell me what to do. And on military mentality, for a general, it's like your rehearsals at this time, that's when you start. So he said, go ahead and assist them and get this thing going. I said, aye, aye, sir. And I really haven't stopped since. And General Gray has been the icon here. Everybody loves him, everybody respects him, because this is a special place for him, since he was the division commander in the battalion that was lost, was his battalion. He still comes down when he can, comes down and he reflects on the wall. He's got his private moment, and we escort him here since, and such as last year's ceremony, you know, it's harder for him to walk, but he sat on stage and the MEF commander, we marched up to him. And you can sense the round of applause and everything that we get when he's able to get up and talks, because this is a special place for him.
Appreciation and dedicated service of General Al Gray. Yes, sir. Al Gray, Marine.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Of course, it's always a great honor and a privilege to be with our Beirut veterans and their families. I'm not sure really if anybody loves me, but I can tell you that all Marines, all real Marines, are never afraid to say that they love fellow Marines and their families. And so I love all of you.
I met General Gray quite a number of times. Stealing the show is not exactly the right wording, but when he appears, they don't care about anything else but listening to General Gray.
He was the commanding general of the 2nd Marine Division when this all happened. And he immediately moved to the front. He was up there encouraging the families and the Marines of Camp Lejeune.
I think they should, in the memorial here, I think they need to put a statue of Al Gray, General Gray, 29th Commandant of the Marine Corps. He is a hero to many people.
You know, the dedication of the wall meant a lot. And one of the things that surprised me the most when I came to the memorial, General Gray walked up to me. And at the time, I think I was a sergeant. And he walked up to me, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "How you doing, Sergeant Simmons? How's that Purple Heart treating you?" Now, I haven't talked with this man since he penned, and we really didn't talk then, but he remembered my name. He remembered, he pinned the Purple Heart on me, and that meant a lot. That meant a lot to me.
Well, we helped them with the ribbons and tied them up, and we told them how valuable they are to us. What a super job they did for us when we needed them the most. And it was young kids. We were just blown away by their sense of community.
Well, it's important to me and the fellows that are with us and the wives because we respect what the kids are doing for us. They've been carrying this tradition on, and it's something that we want to commend them in doing for us, and for us helping them. I think we'll have some good bonding there and give them a little bit of history on what we went through, so the history is carried on.
Well, we want to never forget our brothers that we lost over in Beirut in the bombing, and this is for Jacksonville to realize that they really did a lot for us when this happened, and we want this to continue. We want everybody to remember it, never forget. And the ladies' ribbons is a privilege, and I am here for it, and I'm ready for it. Every morning in Jacksonville, if we didn't hear machine gun fire, like the Syrians firing back at each other, or that's my whoever, it was like every day. It was a routine.
All I remember from that morning was total shock, because we were used to getting shot at. We were used to mortars. It was commonplace. Oh well, another mortar. But this explosion was so huge, and you couldn't see anything because the dust clouds were rolling in like this.
Your first saw it in action when you first saw it coming.
Oh, that's a tough one. Basically, you rely on your training. So you could be afraid. There's nothing wrong with being afraid. It sharpens your wits.
Thank you guys, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. And continue this tradition, okay? So when you go back to your school, let your other students know what's going on. And you guys are a big part of this in Jacksonville. You guys are in history here, okay? Thank you.
I love to come down here on a Sunday afternoon and just sit at the parking lot and answer questions of anybody that comes by that doesn't know what this is all about. We have a tremendous number of tourists that come here, and I just feel it's my obligation and my pleasure to do that kind of thing.
That guy. He represents each one of us. He has a generic face, a generic uniform. He's atypical Marine. He could be any one of us, and he is every one of us.
Well, for me, really getting to know the families. We've become really, really good friends over the years. And we've been, up to New Jersey to see them, and they come down here. Ironically, some of the families even bought property down here so they could be near here.
To muster here in the plaza, and they have candles. There's electronic candles now, but they used to have real candles, and they all sit around, and they have prayer, and they get on the wall and they read all the names on the wall.
Well, when we have the morning vigil, I try to make sure I get me a candle because I want to raise the light up, and sometimes we come and they get them all the candles out. But when you see everybody here, it doesn't make a difference. Some days, October 23rd, it's cold. Some days it's warm. But everybody huddle together and they listen to the reading of the names.
When I come out here, I certainly see the names on the wall. I see this as it was in its various stages of construction. But every time I walk out here, my mother's here.
And usually I'm here once or twice a week, and I'll come maybe sometimes I can't sleep at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I look at that flag because the flag's illuminated at night, and I think everybody that went before us that paid the ultimate sacrifice for that flag to fly.
on October 23rd, 1986, this community gathered at this location to unveil this memorial. This memorial calls the remembrance of that day to have a tangible community presence and symbolizes our resolve to never forget.